Well, we got a couple more minutes, but
We're streaming anyway.
you're streaming? Okay. Before we start, welcome everybody. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
And what you see today is the result of what would you say, this 3 or 4 weeks of intensive work.
Yeah.
And
there's still a long way to go.
and we've still got a lot of stuff to sort and consolidate, but we're in pretty good shape, and apparently it doesn't leak. And don't jinx it. It is a flat roof, and it is freezing rain tonight. So stop. Steve, do you want to start with a quick
Tour?
pointing tour?
Okay. UK magazines are all along top of the filing cabinets there. I'm not going to really get into what's in the filing cabinets. That's mostly for the executive in that, although there is the odd thing you would be interested in, but most of it's there. So UK magazines. Over here we have OGS magazines from across Ontario, all the different branches, and what we have. Now after about 2016 we started to do them electronically because we ran out of space, and hopefully we're going to reduce these and make them electronic as well eventually. Quebec and miscellaneous books for miscellaneous provinces are up there next to Dan, and then other provincial newsletters from across Canada are right behind Anne. And then we move over. Scotland and Ireland are facing the window side. England and Scotland are on this end, and England's on the far side. Again, not sorted. In fact, I think there's still several boxes on the floor of England.
Yes.
So, then up at that end, we're going to have our main desk for Sheila and research and everything else, so bookkeeping and Sheila. And then, as I pointed out before, there's some quick study guides right next to Sheila there. And eventually we may try and get some magazines as they come in. We might try and put them there for a month or so before we file them, just so you can see what's new in the office, kind of thing. That's the thought for that. Over on this side, we have all the books here that we all grew up with, right, Nancy?
Yeah.
All the death notices and marriage notices from Mackenzie and Reed and everything like that go up to about here. Then we have some newspaper indexes for the next 4 boxes, maybe even 5. And then we have the Ontario District Marriage Registers. I don't believe it's quite a full set, but there's a lot of them there. Some you can see on Ancestry, but they're not all there, and even the ones that are there are not all complete. So you can look through the district marriage registers. Basically, they run about 1801, we'll say, to 1857, roughly. And then we jump into the county marriage registers, which follow the district marriage registers. They're 1858 to 1869. And what am I trying to say? We don't have a full set yet of those either, but we'll work on it. Again, some of them are available on Ancestry, etc., but not all of them. The Ontario Register was an early publication that has a lot of interesting information in it: marriages, cemeteries, articles, people. It was one of the early go-to sources. And then we have some will books, Circuit Court Index books from 1859 to 1900. Not a full set, unfortunately, but we're working on it. At least now we're getting them together, so we'll know what we have and what we don't have. And then there's a few more miscellaneous wills here. Our yearbook collection is across the top of this. Again, not in any order at the moment. On this wall is our collection of directories. We have a pretty good collection, especially for Oshawa and Toronto areas. Incomplete, but we're working on it. There's also some miscellaneous country books, like how to work in Sweden and how to, I forget some of the other Germany, European roots, that type of thing.
Belize,
that's the one.
Belize.
Yeah.
was donated.
The back rack has our cemetery collection, our local cemetery collection, plus we will eventually, once we get that organized and condensed, we'll hope to have other provinces, or I shouldn't say provinces, but areas of Ontario up there as well. We have a full shelf in the middle of this one of cemeteries too. Top shelf of this one has church records on it, mostly local, and the bottom shelf is more of a general type of books. Phone books are over here underneath the cemeteries. So they're kind of to go hand in hand with the directories. If you can find them in one, you might find them in the other, or vice versa. Family histories like the Jones, the Smiths, and the Woods families, etc., will be on these shelves. Again, a few general books in the bottom because we don't know where else to put them. On this wall is Ontario County books. So for each county, which eventually will be in alphabetical order, we want to put all the different books, like the Bruce Beckons, or Past Years in Pickering, Heart and Soul, the story of Bethesda Reach, that type of thing. So they will be in order. At the moment, Durham and Ontario counties are sorted out, the rest of it. Families from OGS is on the bottom shelf, and some general books down there as well. USA is on this wall, and mixed in with it is loyalist material and a little bit of other military material in here. Again, partially sorted, but not fully. But we have a real good collection of the New York genealogical and biographical record, because we have the early years on disc and the later ones in book format. So, incomplete, but it's a really good collection if you have early New York people, because that's a professional magazine. If they don't have 100 footnotes per page, then it's not good enough for them, kind of thing. There's also Connecticut and the National Genealogical Society Quarterly, again, an upgrade if you're looking for fancy and well-presented material. And the New England Historical and Genealogical Register is on there. So those three are kind of upper class, we'll call it, for if you want your footnotes and you want it documented properly, and et cetera, that's who you follow. A little bit of Mayflower stuff up here in the US as well. And I guess that's good enough.
That's a pretty good overview.
That's good, yeah.
Yeah. I hope you'll consider this place your home away from home. Steve and Deb have chosen 2 Fridays a month. Which two?
The 3rd and 4th, I believe it was, wasn't it? Yes.
3rd and 4th Fridays of each month from about 10 until 1. And that seems to be a morning that the parking lot is relatively clear.
That's why
Okay.
I chose it.
That's why we chose the Fridays. And at other times by appointment.
Yes, we can do a by appointment as well.
I'll tell you, for the next couple of months, well, at least for me, for 1 month, I'm away in February. We'll be here most days, sorting and consolidating and putting in chronological order and alphabetical order and any other order we can think of, trying to get it very user-friendly. It's been an eye-opener for me. I had kind of been hands-off on the library, left it for the 2 professionals there, and I've learned a lot. I take direction very well. Maybe.
She also gives it to
Well, I wasn't going to say that.
Steve, this book I'm throwing out.
Steve, you got 3 copies. That one's going. Okay, so we'll start the meeting, and here we go. There's our agenda, pretty simple for tonight because January tends to be somewhat of a simple meeting. Anybody here for the first time? I don't think so. Everybody looks pretty familiar to me. Okay. They confess.
Yeah, actually, technically, everybody's here for the first time.
Yes. Picky.
If you show up in the room,
What was your last week?
If you know your alphabet.
Yes, yes.
Just pretend you don't.
So just remember that the church parking lot, since we share it with the scout leaders and cub leaders, we're trying to keep it clear for people with the accessibility permits. I tell you, it took me 3 hours to find it on the internet when I needed one in 2006.
Is the whole lot accessibility?
No, it's
Oh.
not, but
But
it's
when
good
they-
enough for anybody who's got an accessibility sticker as far as shorter walking than the street.
Or if you're slugging a lot of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Well, I
the-
mean, Ann and Dan have a permanent spot because they're carrying a lot of stuff, personal stuff.
Although I didn't bring the microphone tonight.
Well, I don't think we need it in this room. Anyway, I was talking to the secretary downstairs, our partner, and I'll send this around. They're going to have an Italian night, Saturday, January 26th. And the two pieces that hit me were lasagna and homemade pies.
homemade lasagna.
Well, the lasagna is apparently comes from Antonio's Italian Deli in Whitby, and Margaret assures me, and she's worked in many kitchens, this is the best lasagna ever. And thick. So it sounds good. Unfortunately, I'm not here on Saturdays. And if you didn't renew your membership before the end of last year, you've lost all your access, so renew soon. Just look for that green renew button on the homepage. We still need a note taker for our council meetings. And we would like some members at large to come on the board for idea input. Because when we've been doing it for how many years have we been doing it, Ann? And Steve.
Long time.
And Janice. You know, we need some fresh ideas. Here's something that's due out in March. FamilySearch.org apparently has finished the index, and it's being set up on the LAC and will also be on the FamilySearch.org website.
Is it here at the church?
That's here at the church, yes. So in March, this is the Prairie Provinces only. Just like the 1916 census. Now Canadiana, which I don't have my notes, but there's 3 sections to it. Canadiana, early Canadiana, and heritage, and I believe it's 35 million pages. Paywall, so you no longer have to pay for this site. So go mine it.
Yeah, Dave Oldie spoke about it at the conference, and
Yeah.
that's why I waited. I knew it was going to be good, but I waited
Yeah.
until it was free. But he said it was tremendous.
So in 20 minutes, it's the first episode of Finding Your Roots for this season.
Yeah.
If you didn't know about this, you missed your chance to PVR it. And it's for 10 episodes. PBS station, I believe. At any rate, I found it on my guide, so.
So we're gonna miss every 4th episode?
Unless you PVR it, or tape it, or do something.
What's a PVR?
Not going
I
there.
have an aerial. What's a PVR?
Not going there.
Not an outdoor facility?
You want a VCR? How about a VCR?
It's like, yeah.
do have a VCR.
How about a Betamax?
Yeah, a VHS still works.
I moved up to VHS.
Yeah, okay. And this was a new one that I noticed out. It's Canadian War Museum's posted some guides, and that's although we've got extra dots in there, it's really only 4 guides, about 6 pages about how to do research. And That's a heck of a long URL. So basically just go to the War Museum and look, and there's a tab there called Learn. And then you look for the military collection, and then you look for the guides. And I've talked enough. I'll give Sheila 2 minutes.
Queen Sheila?
Queen Sheila.
Crown Sheila.
Well, she handles the money, so she's the queen. I couldn't resist that one. And it's Canadian money. That's even better.
Now we're gonna get 50,000 views of this video.
Yeah, it's got a cat.
It's got a cat with a crab.
Got a cat in it.
Yes. Okay.
Oh, okay. So for our current account, the balance at the end of December was $3,422.02. And the withdrawals in December was $63.97 with no deposits. And then as of today, we had another withdrawal of $50, and our balance is $3,372.02.
And we should be seeing the 2019 memberships come rolling in fairly soon, I hope.
A long time, so we'll see.
Well, the year before it was like summer. It was even worse while they were doing all sorts of audits and what have you. We have no correspondence today. So Saturday, May 11th, basically 9 to 4 will be our day of learning. We have not got speakers yet, and I haven't written up the call for speakers yet. It'll take me a few days. But the registration is now open for OGS's conference. It's going to be at the London Convention Centre. Now, you're on the internet?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if this will work. Will it? Oh, okay, maybe not.
Try
click on
pushing control. It might work if you hold the control key down and then click on it.
It's doing something.
Very slow computer, but we are on the internet.
Well, I'm not sure that we will
Clicking
achieve something maybe a couple of slides along.
Okay.
Anyway, that's a picture of the London Convention Centre. They've never held it there before, so it's nice they've got a large enough building. And the conference pricing, early bird for OGS members for the full weekend is $130. So if you're going to do Friday workshops or tours, they are extra on top of that. The theme is, apropos, breaking down genealogical barriers. Okay? And the website is conference2019.ogs.on.ca, but you can get to it from the front page of the OGS website. And we're going to take a short, well, maybe not so short day. How about 15 to 20 minutes break, and then we'll get Steve set up, and he will lead the breaking down brick walls. Unless someone has some other piece of news, genealogy news, that they want to share.
One of my friends who keeps me busy says that there's some form of genealogy presentation at the library, Pickering Library Mall, on
Okay.
Saturday morning from 10 to 1 or something.
Is it
I
a
don't know
single
what it is.
one-off, or do you know?
I didn't research it. I didn't even go into the library to find out, at least the library site.
Yeah.
So
This coming Friday, if you go to the Oshawa Library in the local history room, 2 o'clock, is the Oshawa Public Library Genealogy Support Group, if you're interested.
And you had a picture you wanted to
Pardon?
show.
So what was the time? Day?
Time was this Friday at 2 p.m. Since I spoke at them a couple of times now, I'm on their secret Facebook group, and I find out when they meet. And it was secret. I had to respond to an invitation. Okay, so just I'll let you wander around the room if you can manage it. And there's some drinks and juices down in the corner.
Sheila has 50/50.
Sheila is selling 50/50 draw tickets. Thank you, Steve, for the nudge.
To unwind the wires here on the
Yeah.
camera.
And up at this end, Deb has put out some books that are there just for a donation, whatever you choose to give. A lot of them are duplicates from our library or from the public library, the Whitby Public Library collection that they sent back to us. So, and we'll get Steve set up.
Those not sitting can push
And
their chairs in.
anybody who's having trouble hearing or anything, there's 2 chairs at the front here, still free.
It's possible because he used one of the. He used it to send out mail, so I send it back. And I wasn't sure if that would. He said he just put it all there.
The keys actually down
Find something. Yeah. I don't know why. But usually there's an adult sitting there.
Yeah.
At least we don't have to worry about that. I don't think it.
Well, no, we haven't, but, they did send out an email with the instructions on how to, your welcome message again, so we're sure it didn't work. But it was a different phone number than the one on the website. Really strange. So I actually went in and did the phone number and our extension, and I got, but I did tell her thank you for the amended.
Now you won't let me out of here.
Okay, so we're gonna start again. I'd also like to mention that this is probably the only meeting each year that we'll actually hold in this room, because usually we get much better attendance in February through December. So we will be having our meetings down in the downstairs of the church, as we have all fall. But what we're going to do is we're going to open this room up, 6:45, 7, so you can come that half hour early and have a little browse and then go down to the meeting. You'll get kicked out because they'll want to go to the meeting too, but there's a lot you can do in a half an hour, so.
Well, you can even take the books down with you to the room and then bring them back up at the end of the night.
That's right.
We can
So
do that too.
we're hoping you'll consider the library your home. Okay. Anything else I need to say, Steve, that you can think of?
Not that I can recall.
Okay. So now Steve is going to lead our brick wall. He's had 3 submitted, and so he's going to show you what he's been doing. And you're going to open it up so that people can make their own suggestions too.
That is true. I
good.
have a slide labeled suggestions.
Okay, good.
So the timing will be obvious.
Okay,
Oops, I'm getting it wrong. That's good.
there we go.
Perfect.
You can sit here.
Okay, I guess I probably. This is the first one. Parentage of Rachel Fairbairn. She was born about 1784 in England, married 1809 in Coldstream, Berwickshire, Scotland, to John Foster, who was of this parish when they wed. Rachel was said to be of the parish of Cornhill.
I think that how many boxes did we have?
Probably close to 200 anyways. a lot of which are sitting in my garage.
And I will say that the insurance people were persuaded to give us a team for 2 days to clean the room and to haul all those boxes up and unpack them.
Oh, wow.
And they did a wonderful job, but of course they're not genealogists. So that's, the shelves are kind of in general order, but not. But it was wonderful.
Just them bringing them from the gym up to this room was fabulous. It saved us so much time.
Yes. Okay, sorry,
Okay, back
Steve.
to Rachel. So she married John Foster in 1809, and she was of the parish of Cornhill. Now, that's likely Cornhill-on-Tweed in Northumberland County, England, which is just across the border and about 1 mile east over the River Tweed from Coldstream. So they are right next to each other, but you just get a little wet. She was enumerated in the census returns 1841 and 1851. Unfortunately, they just say born England because they're in Scotland at the time. And she died in 1851 in Coldstream. And they do have the burial record. So it confirms she was born about 1784. The date seems to be quite solid. Oh yeah, quite wrong. Additional information, they had 5 known children, but the baptisms were all located in non-conformist records, which is probably why there's having problems finding her too, as she may have belonged to a similar church. So Joseph, Jean, Joseph again, James Ballantyne, and John. And interestingly enough, John was identified as the 5th child, 4th son. So we know we should have the first 5 perfectly there. There are no surprises there. But the non-conformist is probably the biggie. Onomastics, from the children's names, if they were following tradition, John's father should be Joseph, Rachel's father should be James, and Rachel's mother should be Jean or Jane, if they're following the rules. Okay, just because we know there was, oops, sorry, wrong button. I think I must have hit 2, did I?
There we go.
The James Ballantyne is interesting. We did try and find any Ballantyne, Fairburn, or Foster connections, and there was a William Ballantyne who married in 1785 in Cornhill to a Jane Fairburn. So they are worth following up on if they could find anything more about them, just in case the Ballantyne is a clue. And interestingly enough, they had a son, James, baptized 1793. So you kind of wonder if James is a Ballantyne name. There was also a James Fairburn who married in 1769 in Coldstream to someone whose name was not given. So that's possible marriage for the parents if they were from Coldstream and she just happened to be over in the other parish when she got married. No hard and fast rules there, but some possible clues. I did a little delving into John Foster. He was born about 1787 in Edinburgh, according to the 1851 census. He died in 1854. He's listed as a shoemaker at a couple of his kids' baptisms and in the 1841 census, and he's listed as a grocer in 1851. There are trees for John at Ancestry. They give 2 different parents. John Foster, born 1783, which is a little ways off from 1787. It's possible, but it's not perfect. And son of John. Someone else has John Foster, son of Joseph Foster and Bridget Kerr. And apparently Bridget died in 1825 in Coldstream. Now, according to the onomastics, John, oops, I did it again, hitting the wrong button. John's father could be Joseph, which fits in nicely with the second one here. but there's no way to tell for sure until you can build up a full picture of the whole family. So, a couple possibilities for John. Nothing definite. Now, there are other Fosters in Coldstream in the census returns. A couple interesting ones. William Foster, born about 1802. He's a bootmaker, which would be similar to the shoemaker and etc. that John was. So he's listed as bootmaker. William A, and the A stands for Ayer. Foster, he was born 1801 in Coldstream, son of Alexander. And he marries Elizabeth Healy, and his marriage was registered in both Coldstream and Edinburgh, which, remember, John Foster was supposedly born in Edinburgh. Whether it's clue or coincidence, hard to say. There's also another William Foster, born about 1809 in Coldstream. He's a saddler, which, again, working with leathers, so possibility. And one last person there, Alexander, which is probably the father of the aforesaid William A. He is a bootmaker in 41 and 51. He's residing in Coldstream, and he's born, well, his dates are a little off there, as you can see, but probably around 1770, we'll say, to even him out. And he married Mary Eyre, or A-Y-R, take your pick, the records show her as that, in 1800 in Coldstream. He's said to be the son of John Foster and Isabella Todd. So that would bring in a John into the family and make a reason to have the John name. Alexander died in 1856 in Coldstream. Because he dies after 1855, the death registration should list his parents' names to confirm their dates. So whether someone has already done that, and that's where they got John Foster and Isabella Todd, I don't know. But there is a way to double check that. And so that's Foster. If only the query was about the Fosters, it would have been a lot better. You'll see suggestions for Fairbairn. Because I didn't have a lot of luck on Fairbairns. There are a few around the area, and you're almost going to have to chart out all the Fairbairns from the Coldstream and Cornhill and the surrounding areas. Check them all out, I think. Also see what nonconformist records are available for the area, because they're not turning up in the Anglican records. You might want to check the National Records of Scotland website, which has 3 different indexes. For instance, the National Archives of Scotland has Alexander Foster, boot and shoemaker of Coldstream. He left papers 1820 to 1841. So, like I say, we want to follow the Fosters, not the Fairbairns. The Fosters had lots of stuff there. Also, Scotland's Papers website for wills and possible relations. Guess who's there again? Alexander Foster. Now, if he happens to be the brother of John, then you might find a mention in his will, because he died in 1856 at Coldstream, and he has a testament and inventory. That might be testamentary. They might have cut it off, but that's what was there. And that's in the Dundee Sheriff Court wills. So there is a possible way, if you got really, really lucky, Alexander might mention John, because they're all in the same profession, so maybe he might have given some of his tools to my brother John or whatever. It's a wild shot, but it's a possibility when you get real desperate and rich to buy the stuff. But, like I say, didn't have a lot of luck finding even the Fairbairns in those records, but I sure found Fosters. Just one, but that's all it takes sometimes. Okay, and then for the Fairbairns, I would try to see if you can find any Fairbairn children born to a James and Jean or Jane Fairbairn in marriage and death registrations and or baptismal records. Don't think too many have turned up, but you can see what you can find. And then Valentine connections to Fairbairn or Foster families. I mean, they're pretty obvious things to do, but other than doing a heavy search through some of those other websites to see, because I did not try a lot of different spellings, I did try Soundex, but you might be able to come up with something on Fairburns. Does anyone else have any other suggestions for this person as to where we might want to look for the Fairburn connection?
Can you, I might have missed it if you said it, I apologize. What was the query? What was the query?
They want the parents of,
Parents.
I forget her name, Rachel Fairburn.
Okay.
That was the question.
Oh.
No, because they only have her born in England. They know she was of Cornhill, but it don't necessarily know she was born in Cornhill.
Okay.
But again, Cornhill is very close to Coldstream, so it's likely she was born in the area anyways.
Okay.
You can also do maps.familysearch.org for Cornhill and get a radius. You won't get Scottish, but you'll get all the English parishes that could be checked for her birth baptism.
But even checking in Northumberland County is, even if you just check in Northumberland County, nothing seems to turn up
Okay.
under Northumberland. I mean,
Steve, you gave a Scottish talk once, and you were talking about names that were changed. Is this too late for that?
probably. It might be. It would be worth checking just in case. Certainly.
Because you gave us a list of this name was sometimes
Right.
people, the family
That
members
was
use
more
the
in
other.
in the Highlands, I think,
Oh, okay.
at the time. But there may
Yes.
be lists for this area too, because I think this would probably qualify as lowlands. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that it is certainly something to consider if they did have different names. Yes.
Berkshire is considered borders. Because
Steve, so to find the nonconformist churches in the area, you go to Family Search or?
Try everything. FamilySearch.org, Scotland's what do they call it? Scotland's Papers? People. Scotland's People website, I believe now has some of them up there.
For England?
No, sorry, this is for Scotland. Sorry, yeah. England, Family Search, Ancestry. Just try them all, and even go to the wikis in FamilySearch.org and see what they say. They might say there is records for this area, or unfortunately the parish boundaries, I'll call them, might be different for the nonconformist as opposed to the
they definitely are
Anglican.
different than the Anglican parishes.
they
The Roman Catholic, the nonconformist, and the Anglican are all different.
Yeah, I mean, I know in Devonshire, my nonconformist people went by the township. The churches kind of were labeled or organized by township as opposed to by parish. So you'd have to search a little bit bigger circle, but it's worth a try to see what's out there.
And they haven't done as much on the nonconformists as they have on the Anglican churches, right? The Family
Well,
Search.
probably more Anglican have survived because they did bishops' transcripts and
Yeah.
the other,
Yeah.
and then they had a program to gather some of this up. They have been working at gathering up, I think, the nonconformists too, but each of them probably have their own archives and may or may not
Okay.
have allowed access to microfilming or et cetera, et cetera.
And some of the nonconformists were not a hierarchical church like the
Yeah.
Anglicans. You
Right.
know, the records may still be in the original little
Basement.
church, and they really didn't report to anybody else.
Right, yeah.
Just a little bit off you, what you got, you're hunting, but the Fairburn, where's the start of this? Is there somebody in this area that's a Fairburn that gave you
Yeah,
Well,
who put in
the
the query?
query was submitted to us,
it was?
yes,
You don't know from where?
By a local person? Or?
by a local person, yes.
You're not going to tell us the name.
Well, I don't know if they want to be identified or not.
Well, there are definitely Fairburns in this area.
Okay,
Yeah,
I just-
but she,
just
that's her
looking
main
for a Fairburn and
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's,
Eastern Ontario.
So, can I just follow a bit of that line there on the Fairbairns? So, she lived in Scotland. Who came over? Her kids? Her grandkids?
That part wasn't part of the query.
I know it wasn't part of the query, but I'm thinking
the
if
foster kid, the foster
But they would have been
kids.
fosters.
Yeah, I'm a foster.
they would have been fosters, yes.
It's Sheila.
It's Sheila, yeah, okay. Thank you, Sheila. For piping up. I'm just wondering how many generations before the migrations came over, and presumably, just as a guess, the Fosters came at generation 2 or 3. How about Fairbairn siblings, kids or grandkids? Would they have come, and would they have come to the same area here? Like, is there a history around here that tells about the Fairbairns?
Not that I have found.
Okay.
Like in Montreal, right? Like
Yeah.
everybody was in Montreal.
Is there a local history group in the Coldstream area that
Yeah,
might
the,
be
the Borders, I belong to the Borders.
Family History Society, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
but so far,
On the Borders Family History Society, Christine Woodcock, who does the Scottish Family History Tours, sent out an email not that long ago and said that the second, asking people's areas of interest, like where would they want to tour. And the second highest scoring was the Borders. So if you're interested, send Christine Woodcock an email and maybe just do some local research over there. It's for 2020 that she's possibly thinking of doing a tour. I said I was interested. I got Berkshire people came to Prince Edward County and then to Kingston. But darned if I can find any Berkshire parish records.
Well, Scotland's people, of course, have.
That's
would
where
have
I've
some,
tried.
But that's where you tried.
That's where I've tried. And can't find the maiden name there at all. It was Watt or Wait. And the Wait could just be Scottish pronunciation of Watt. And I'm not supposed to be a farmer in Berkshire. And this is the lovely family story. A farmer in Berkshire took in a French Napoleonic prisoner of war, and he married the farmer's daughter. Although I've never found the marriage, I haven't found the farmer of a last name of Watt or Wade. And and then he went back to France and died. And the farmer's daughter married again, and of course he didn't like the daughter, and the daughter didn't like him, and she came to Canada with her aunt and uncle. So I haven't been able to prove a single word of that story, and when I suggested to my mother that maybe it was, a birth out of wedlock, oh no. Definitely not.
Our family never did that.
No, and the only record I found for that person is on her children's baptisms at the Presbyterian Church in Kingston, and there she's called Nancy Carmichael, and her name is supposed to be Agnes Dupre. Which Nancy is a nickname for Agnes, but the whole rest of it, Carmichael was the stepfather's name. So.
Oops.
Not helping me any in trying to prove this. And I was really hoping on Berkshire Parish records, and when they bring the session records out, which is where I figure we'll get that
Right.
legitimacy interviews, if you want to call it that. Not having any luck yet. So.
So
Any
we
other
now
s-
have 3 mysteries instead of 1.
Yeah.
Breaking down brick walls.
We got something for next year.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, yeah.
Any other suggestions, perhaps, on possibilities? Certainly, that's a good suggestion from Nancy to see if you can find any Fairbirds that come over with the Fosters, just on the off chance a whole group of them came over.
Right.
The old fan principle.
Yeah, see, if it's down at the grandchildren level, maybe it wouldn't pan out, but if it's
Well,
the children
you know,
level,
John's son, Joseph, he didn't come, but his wife came, and all their kids.
All their kids, so
okay,
part of that generation.
okay. Was it after he died, obviously?
Yes. Yeah. He was the master of the jail in Peebles. He died in jail. I went, when I saw that, like that came up and what? And then you find out he was the
master.
He was on the right side of the
He was
door.
on Yep. That was a good discovery.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But there are a few Valentines there. Like I say, we do have the one William Valentine. I'd try and track down some of their family if you can. I can only find the one son in a quick search, but maybe.
Yeah, and the heirs, there's a lot of heirs, but I can't hook them up. And
Nobody had a middle name of heir in your. Mind you, that would be Williams
yeah,
branch, not.
But with DNA, you can see it's there, but
Okay. Like I say, if you want to try a long shot, if you went for Alexander's will, just on the off chance he gave some of his shoemaking stuff to his brother, no, his brother would be dead by then, I think.
To his
Or
nephew.
it'd have to be to a
Nephew.
nephew. No, actually, Alexander was just a little bit older than John. John can't be a son of Alexander. They'd have to be brothers, I think.
I was saying nephew.
But yes, to a nephew or something. Because I think John died before Alexander,
The
unfortunately.
question would be, did Alexander have kids?
and
He
that's
definitely had William A. So
Yeah.
he
and that's
definitely.
on Scotland's people. You said. Really?
Let's see where we've got.
No.
One more, maybe. There we are. Yeah. Yes, the will, Scotland. Excuse me. I'm going to sneeze. Maybe. Yeah, Scotland's people for the will. There's actually two records for him there, but I think that was the will one. But there is a second record as well. And apparently the Dunge Sheriff Court is where Coldstream is in. There's nothing under Berwick. Okay, any other suggestions? Or sorry, Sheila, none. It's still a come on.
Thank you.
Number 2, parentage of Lucinda Wood. No relation to me, sadly. Basically, there's only one record for her. James Foster married Lucinda Wood. They were both of Hope Township, married in 1850 by license. The witnesses were Susanna McNall and Orilla, I guess, McNall as well. And Susanna and Orilla are known to be daughters of Luther McNall and Hannah Raymond. Hannah Raymond marries secondly to Jessie Wood, and they have one known child, Jessie Wood. So that's the family chart. You would think that Lucinda Wood would be connected to the family somehow. We shall move ahead. The question was, is Lucinda Wood the daughter of Hannah and Jessie Wood and the half-sister of Susanna and Orilla? Now, other information. Hannah was born 1808, died 1895. She married about 1826 to Luther McNall, and he died in the 1830s. And then she married, secondly, in 1838 to Jessie Wood, who was born 1802, died 1862. Susanna was born in 1827. Lafayette, 1830, Orilla, 1833, Luther Raymond, 1835, and then Jesse Wood came along in 1839. When you put that all together, if Lucinda was married in 1850, she was probably born before or at the latest 1835, making her age 15. And Luther Raymond McNall was born about 1835, so it's very unlikely that she's the daughter of Hannah Raymond and Jesse Wood. But Jesse did marry first before that to a Lydia Kemble. They were both of Hope Township and they married in 1823. So, could Lucinda be Jesse's daughter from the first marriage, and those other two girls were actually her stepsisters? Okay, these are my suggestions. If you check the Newcastle District Census and Assessment Rolls, which we actually have here on microfilm, you can see if Jessie Wood is listed with a daughter of a suitable age. It won't give you an exact age for her, but it might give you a reasonable setup.
And those census and assessments are every 2 years.
No, every year, except there's gaps where they've been lost or destroyed or whatever.
Well, the one microfilm I saw had a note at the very front saying they'd only microfilmed every other year.
I've got them year by year for
Really?
years.
Yeah, certainly Darlington is
Now,
year
there's
by
been
year.
several
Got
films, there's been at least 2 filmings.
Then one
We've
was a
got
better
good,
one
we've got
than
the good one then.
The
Library has them every year.
Yeah, but there is gaps because there is some
Yeah.
missing in whichever.
And Coburg has
Pardon me.
some microfilm reels of those municipal records too.
And Port Hope, which is where I got them back then.
We can always, like I say, we do even have them here, so
I
we can
haven't
double
been
check.
able to figure that out. That's good
Okay.
to go back to.
We'll work on that. The others, that at least would show if Jesse probably had a daughter or not. If in those ones records, assuming that they're straightforward. Sometimes they're straightforward and you can follow them through for 20 years. Other times they'll have all kinds of servants or other family members mixed in and it screws everything up. You just never know. You could also check land records and wills for Jesse, Luther, and Hannah to see who's mentioned in them, and if they left one, which they may not have. Because certainly Luther
But
died young.
there might be estate files too,
There might be
if
estate
it
files.
was intestate.
That's right. There could be something. And I would search for death notices and obituary for the parents and all of the siblings just to see if they mention all the different siblings. They don't. Some do and some don't. It's a shot in the dark, but it's worth a try. And there was apparently a second marriage. Oopsie. I'm going the wrong way. Aren't I?
Yeah, you are.
There we go. Possible second marriage for James Foster in 1870, because there's no record of her at all in any census or anything that can be found. We don't even know where they are in 1861, which they should have been in a census somewhere.
Yeah.
But 1870, he marries Frances Bradley, and they're in the 1871 census in Victoria County, and there's no children with them.
Then we have Victoria County newspapers.
Yeah.
Indexes.
Might go back that far. I'm not sure.
Well, I mean, it's 1870 plus.
Yeah,
Maybe
well,
we'll see.
the death would be before 1870. It'd be sometime between 1850 and 1870.
Oh, I thought
She
You-
married.
I was looking for the obituary of James
Oh,
Foster.
James Foster. Sorry. Yes.
After 1870.
Yeah. So an obituary might at least
Mention his
mention
first
if
wife.
his first wife. Yeah.
Or kids, or whatever.
Or exactly. Yeah. But there was no kids listed with James and Frances in 1871. But who knows what he did with them, if he did have any with her. Sometimes they farmed them out. So that is my suggestions. Any other suggestions, perhaps, that we could add to that? Anne?
I know that there are records for that area, like church records, that are in the Trent University Archives. Do you know whether those record books have been filmed or not?
Certainly the district marriage registers were turned into a book, and all the loose pages and things like that. So the marriage part was done. Now whether there's
Baptisms in
baptisms
there
and
is
things,
Yeah.
hard to say.
that part,
Because it was years ago that Dan and I went and looked, and we found definitely Port Hope stuff that was related to our family.
Their marriages are online now.
that might be good for baptism, sure. That's excellent.
Yeah, so
I didn't
Trent-
find anything.
Or even burial for, yeah.
I got the marriage from there.
Go to the Family Search Wiki and see what they say for Northumberland / Old Durham County as far as other types of records that might be around.
And of course, Peter Bolton's site for Hope Township,
And that's been,
and that's been well done, yeah.
for sure, yeah.
If a couple get married and then they're not seen again in that area, was it both of them that were not seen, or like the husband and wife after the marriage?
It depends if that's the same James Foster enough, because there was, all we had was a name for him. No age, no birthplace, no parents, nothing.
Well, it's a prime time for, right after marriage, for a couple to decide to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
That's what actually happened with the family that Dan and I were looking up at in Port Hope. Right after they were married, the husband and wife were both not seen again, and we found them in Depew, New York, 20 years later when we were accidentally looking there.
Lucinda is actually a good name to be searching for, because
Yes.
it's a bit unusual.
Yes.
I couldn't find anything in the States or Canada census.
Oh, okay.
So that's not to say she couldn't have a nickname or whatever and be
Well-
hiding.
Well, because you have to look LOUS, you know, where they.
Yeah,
Yeah.
could be under
But
Louisa.
there was
could be
nothing
under-
obvious
Yeah.
popped up.
Grandmother would have been Lucy, so.
Yeah,
very good.
Lucy. I was listening to a podcast and that one was Lucindrella. And she went by Cinderella.
Yeah.
So it could be Cindy,
Yeah.
you know? So, she also went by Ella. But not Lucy or,
And if that's the Irish spelling of Ella, it's E-I-L-E.
okay.
But not if it's short for Cinderella.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. And now we go to mine. And another puzzler. Who was Eliza Orr? And how is she related? It's a little hard to read, but his name is Toussaint, T-U-S-A-N, but it comes from the French Toussaint, so you can get 100 different spellings of it.
Oh, yeah.
McDonald, that's not so bad. And Louisiana, which her name actually should be Rosanna. I don't know how they got Louisiana.
Maybe she's Rosanna Louise.
It could be, but nothing else is identified her except for Rosanna.
And she's from Ireland.
And she's born in Ireland. The age is a bit off on this one for her. She's born about 1810, normally. Married at age 14.
So this
But this
is
is a second marriage for her.
1850 U.S. Census.
This is the 1850 census.
Buffalo.
And her maiden name was Rosanna Orr, O-R-R.
Okay.
So, interestingly enough, in 1850, she has an Eliza Orr living with the family, born in Canada, no less. And I don't know if there's a connection or not. Also, William Latimer, age 26, carpenter. And that would kind of go with the chairmaker, so I don't know if he's advising him how to do things or what. But he's also born in Canada.
So there's a Canadian tie somehow.
There's a Canadian tie somehow. Now,
He's
Actu-
probably an apprentice.
could be, or at age 26 he might be more or less finished, but he might be working with them for business or something.
Slight business.
Where was that Thomas born?
New York.
He would have been born in Buffalo.
Well, that's,
That was- he's-
it's NY, it's New York.
NY,
Okay.
yeah.
NY, yeah, sorry,
Okay.
New York.
I'm
Yeah,
not sure if that was a T or a J.
yeah. No, he was born in Buffalo, New York.
Okay.
He's the only child of Tucson and Louisiana, Rosanna McDonald. He was their only known son.
Well,
Eliza was born about 1833 in Canada. That's all I know about her. Rosanna Orr Dunn McDonald was born about 1810 in County Cavan, Ireland. Came to New York State in the 1820s with a small family. Her husband promptly died in 1828. She remarried Tucson, again many spellings, in 1840 in Erie County, New York. But Tucson's first family was born in Markham Township, York County, Upper Canada.
so maybe that's where they met and married.
And that, well, they didn't marry, they definitely married in Erie County.
Okay.
That part, I found records in Erie County. They were married by Justice of the Peace.
They met at the Canadian Club, obviously.
But that's what I don't know with Tucson having a Canadian connection, Eliza Orr having a Canadian connection. Unfortunately, all I have is Canada. I don't know Upper Canada, Lower Canada, etc., Canada West. That's my questions, the obvious ones. How are they related? Presumably they are because of the last name. Where in Canada was she born? Who were her parents and siblings? And what happened to her? So,
She got married.
and that's possible. I've tried to check that too. I've gone looking for Eliza's and Elizabeth's in New York, born in Canada. Didn't find anything.
She never married Latimer?
Not that I know about. I have possibilities that he's the last entry there. So I've nothing obvious for her in any other census returns. I was hoping she'd come back to Canada and he's in 61 or something, but I cannot find any obvious connection to the Orrs in Markham Township area or Little Britain area, which is where Rosanna resided in 1861, and that's where she was buried. They had 4 sons, Obadiah, John, William, Daniel, and Thomas H. Or James H. But only William survived, so I can't follow any of the other relatives. And as far as William Latimer, there's a couple possible trees on Ancestry. Again, I don't know enough about him to be sure, but there's one that the guy is a carpenter, and he lists a wife who was born in County Cavan, Ireland. Her name was not Orr, though. I do have the maiden name, but it's not Orr. But that's not to say that you're not connected a generation back. At least it's got the County Cavan, Ireland. So possibly a clue through William Latimer, but he's in a different area of Ontario again, not those. I think he's up in, one was in Grey County, I think, and one was in Simcoe, and I can't remember which is which. I think he's the Simcoe County one.
Making chairs.
Well, he's a carpenter, so making everything, I guess. But
Have you tried any other spellings of Orr? O-R-E or A-R-R, for instance?
I have tried some. I don't know if I've hit them all. I might not have hit O-A-R. I've certainly tried O-R-E, I think, and O-R-R-E. So.
Well, I know in Dan's family there are a number of people whose first name was Aura, and then it's often spelled with an A instead of
A-U-R-A.
no, just A-R-R-A instead of O-R. So I don't know if that would be common with last names or not. Because I don't have any
It's
Auras.
certainly a possibility, yes. Trouble is, I don't know enough about her to even link her to anybody because she's of age. She probably is married by the time the 1861 census comes along, and I lose her. And I haven't spotted a marriage for her, but I might not know it even if I'm looking at it.
Have you tried the trees on Family Search, WikiTree, and Ancestry to find an Eliza Orr?
I've done Ancestry for sure. I'm not necessarily the other ones, no.
Just for a suggestion or a clue or, who she
Okay,
might
yeah.
have married or.
More clues that way. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
These children who died, was there a newspaper or something where they might have been?
I don't know. I haven't come across anything. I have been going through the, what do they call it? Postcards of New York is kind of
Oh yeah, Fulton.
Fulton site, yeah.
Yes.
And so I have searched for records there. but I
Sometimes
haven't hit
obituaries will
anything.
mention that aunts and uncles or
Yeah,
cousins.
yeah, it's
or-
pretty early. They died in, well, the last one died actually up in Canada
What,
in 61, so.
any idea of religion? You said they were
So-
married by a JP, but
The
any of the other stuff?
McDonalds were married by a JP. Supposedly Rosanna and her first husband were Catholic.
Catholic. Ooh, a lot of Catholic records coming online.
But they were
Find My
all,
Past.
a lot of it was in England. And,
Find My Past is putting
or
American
excuse
ones.
me, in Ireland, and the Irish records don't go quite back far enough in the area that I think they came from.
Oh,
Because
okay.
I have searched through all the Catholic records that went online, looking for them, can't find them, but
The
the
Find My
records I want
Past,
start
that
in
Find My
1830s.
Past are making inroads on the U.S. Catholic records too.
okay, I know even Ancestry's been putting some of the U.S. Catholic records on there, so I've done Ancestry, I have not done Find My Past, though, I'll have to try that.
Okay.
Could Eliza have just passed away
There is that
after
possible.
that census?
Entirely
Did you look
possible.
in cemeteries
And you-
nearby?
I don't have an exact location for them other than Buffalo, so
That census?
that sense they're in Buffalo.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's worth a try, but it is a big place. That's why I was hoping for a church record first.
Directories. Buffalo directories.
There is some good Buffalo directories. I found Tucson McDonald in them, but it doesn't list wives or anything like that.
Does it list the nearest Catholic churches and cemeteries?
I'd have to try that again. I don't know. Worth a try. I don't know if...
But were the McDonald's Catholic or would
No,
they?
they weren't.
Doesn't sound very Catholic.
No, I don't.
Presbyterian maybe?
I cannot remember what they were listed in 1861 census as. Wasn't Catholic though. So that's the thing. She seemed, as soon as they got to the U.S. and Philip dies, boom, they lost the religion.
Yeah. So the one son was born in New York. They were in Buffalo for 1850. They were back in Canada
Like-
together.
18, yes, in
In
1861.
1861.
In 1855, they're still in New York because they're in the New York census, but Eliza's not with them. And I can't find her in the 1855, so she's either back in Canada or she's married or both, or dead.
How does the age of Eliza compare to the marriage date, the first marriage?
Of Rosanna,
Yeah.
they married in 1824. She's born in 1837 or something like
Okay,
that.
so
So
she's not an illegitimate
no,
daughter.
no, there's,
Niece, nephew,
she's
niece.
presumably a niece.
Yeah,
That would
makes
be my
sense.
best
Yeah.
guess, but
Yeah.
don't know how. So it's a great clue to my Duns in Ireland, or my Ors, I should say, and the Duns. But I'm going to have to. The only thing I can do is chart every darn Or from Ireland that's in the early Canadian
God.
census. That's the only thing I can think of, because I don't even know if she's born in Quebec or not.
So there's more than 3, you're saying?
I do believe there's more.
I don't think I'd like to try and chart all the ores in
No.
Upper and Lower Canada. Nope. There's too many of them.
And the trouble is, she's not at home when she's of age, anyways.
Okay, why don't you email Kathy over
Yeah.
and see if she's got
You overheard.
Eliza on her tree anywhere.
Likely she does, there's this common name.
But Kathy Orr, there were 2 other Kathy Orrs. Present day.
Yes,
So there's lots
yes.
of ores across Ontario. There's ores down Belleville, north of Belleville, because we have Dave Johnson's or cousin's mother was an ore.
Or Lake and Simcoe.
Yeah.
Any other suggestions at all, or?
Oh.
Doesn't seem like a good time for military records, does it?
No. No, like I say, Philip came in and then he promptly dies. His last son was born in New York State. Rumor has it about New York City, but then she's 20, or not 20 years later, but 12 years later, she's getting married in Buffalo. So I don't know if she moved. She could even come to Canada for a while, for all I know, and then went back.
Yeah. So that's William Daniel Dunn that was born in
Yes,
New
William
York?
Daniel was born in New York State, as was Thomas
Thomas J.
McDonald.
Yeah.
But I keep hoping for a marriage record or death record, even for. But I cannot find any passenger lists or anything for the family. Nothing along that line.
Yeah, it's too early, isn't it?
So whether the Latimer is a clue, I don't know. At least there's that. But
The Dunns came from Ireland during the famine?
no, before that they came in the
Pre-famine.
about 1826 or so, I think.
Okay.
I'm not sure if I have an exact date. I don't think I do. Because I don't think I know actually where John Dunn was born and died. I just know when, but the family Bible doesn't state where. Obadiah was born in Ireland. It does state that. William in New York. So it's a great clue, but what I'm going to do with it, I'm not sure.
And when you do figure it out, you'll probably find she's just a servant girl and it's a coincidence.
Yep.
17,
You're hired because I like your last name.
I know we're not related, but heck, yep, you can work for me. It isn't till the 81 that they list relationship to the head of the household, or 71?
Not 71, 81,
81.
I think. In Canada, yeah.
In Canada. Okay, so that's not out.
No.
Same in the States. I don't think they did it till the
Well, if she'd been with them in 1855, it would have stated a relationship.
okay.
Because they state relationships in the
So
state
they lost her
census.
between 50 and 55.
That's right. So was she just visiting or
and
married or?
And you've looked at the New York, Buffalo area marriages for 1850.
There isn't
But
a
you
lot of
can't.
marriages, unfortunately, on just whatever you plug into Ancestry and
Yeah.
etc. The other ones,
Yeah.
but certainly.
County Courthouse in Buffalo.
I was gonna say, road trip.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, I'm looking for Eliza, born 1837.
Go read one of those U.S. books on how to search at county courthouses.
But that's part of the problem. Well, no, I guess by then you're Buffalo, so yeah, I at least would know Buffalo area, Erie County.
Yeah.
So, if you're talking about Little Britain and places like that, is it? I can't remember what time the Women's Institute books were around, but would there be Women's Institute information that you could look at?
I don't know. It's probably before that. Is she?
It's definitely before Women's Institute
Okay,
time,
I
but
couldn't
sometimes,
remember what time they started.
Sometimes they go
sometimes
back
they
one.
did history back, especially if that family stayed in the area.
Yeah, but it looks like they didn't.
No.
No.
Because
No.
later, by 1871, I think Tucson's back in Buffalo
Yeah, okay.
because he had his kids there. I think. I can only link 2 of them to him too. I got about 4 names, but I can only link 2.
I was just thinking when you're looking for a woman's, quite sometimes they didn't get in the newspapers, but
No.
they got in the gossip. you
Yeah.
know.
And if they got into the newspapers, they were Mrs. Tucson.
Yeah, that's right.
McDonald.
No, actually, I do have one newspaper article on Tucson, and it says Rosanna, because they're going after them. They're going to take the sheriff's going after their land in Buffalo because they're up here in Canada. It's about 1863 or so.
They're
So-
not paying their taxes.
Probably not paying their taxes, so they were going after their land. So, but that's the only newspaper article I could find.
Well, that's something.
Wills?
Yeah.
Any wills or estate files?
I haven't found anything for either one of them yet. She probably wouldn't have one because she died before he did, so we would have everything. Most likely. I don't think they had much to
And it would be her.
rub together anyways, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah.
What about court files? If there was financial trouble, there could have been other legal trouble.
That is a possibility. It probably wouldn't help me with Eliza Orr though, but certainly
No.
that'd be something to follow up on Rosanna and Tucson.
Yeah.
If nothing else, it might confirm some more of his kids. Does that even have had trouble with that? And that's the thing. How did Tucson meet her? Was it down in Buffalo or was it up in Canada? Because his kids were born up here in Markham Township. He married in Markham Township. I found that record. It's not spelled Tucson either. It's really, really
It
wild.
was the Markham gang.
Yeah.
Maybe they were refugees. Markham gang.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, he's actually witnessed several marriages there, so I think he probably was legit. Plus, but anyways, that's one of my fun ones out there. It's a great clue, but it's not leading me anywhere. Yeah, did anyone else bring a brick wall problem for us to play with here? Or can anyone make one up on the spur of the moment? Or do you just want to go back and read books? There is that too. It's a good opportunity tonight to look at the books if you want. So.
I got one I'm working on. It's not too bad. It's Uxbridge. I've never had the birth or the marriage date of great great grandparents. John McGuire, who was a carpenter, woodworker, whatever, and had the piano and organ factory up there eventually. And his wife was Marianne or Polly Howlett. And she apparently, family story, was a hat maker. Family story is when they were courting one Halloween, the kids in town switched the signs on their two shops. Okay. I did find them in the 1861 census, and they'd been married within the year. Okay, so 1860, 61. I think Anglican. I'm pretty sure it was C of E on the 61 census. They don't have it, they haven't had their first kid yet. Does anybody know anything about Anglican records in Uxbridge and what diocese that would be? Toronto Diocese? So I go to the Toronto Archives, Toronto Anglican Archives. Okay.
Also worth a crack at checking. I think St. James records on microfiche go up that late.
Okay.
And sometimes they went to the big city to get married, and you'll find the odd one there.
Mhm.
It's a shot in the dark, but
Yeah.
once in a
Okay.
while it pays off.
Yeah, of course, 1860, it's before civil registration.
Yeah, and I assume they're not in the county marriage register.
They aren't.
And,
What
I
year
tried
was
that.
it
but
again?
check.
What year would they have been married?
1860. Because on the 1861 census, they are married, and it says they have been married within the previous 12 months. So 1860, 1861.
There's a publication by John Ross Robertson of many of the marriages, and I'm not sure without looking at the books that I have when the break-off period is, but you're saying 1860.
Well, it's 12 months before the census was taken.
So Robertson's,
60,
is that the
60.
Robertson's landmarks, kind of landmarks
That's
of
right,
Toronto?
John Ross Robertson.
Okay, that would be St. James
And
records.
that's St. James.
That's St.
records.
James. We do have the microfiche, the Toronto branch transcribed them all.
I have 6 volumes.
Yeah, yeah. The Toronto, there might be some more in there too, but I know the Toronto branch did transcribe them, but we do have those microfiche here, so they are available as well.
Okay.
'Cause
I'm gonna
yours aren't
come and look.
indexed, are they?
I brought the
No, you have to go by
binders
date, which she has. I mean, I can check a year. that's-
Oh, yes, that's true. Yes, it wouldn't take too much to check a year. Yes.
Yeah.
I don't do that.
Thank you. Marianne Howlett or Polly. Howlett, Howlett, English. He's Irish. John McGuire, son of Thomas.
I wonder if he was Protestant McGuire
They were.
They were.
His older sister married an Ingram, and it's the only Irish record I have. And it was in Cavan. So that's the only one of my 50% of me as Irish that I have an actual place in Ireland. And the older sister, it was in this. The marriage was in the Church of Ireland, Parish Church, and the 1861 census says C of E for both Polly and John.
And their other option is that they were associated with another church and got married at another church, then got married and got more legitimate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's true. In Ireland anyway, because you needed the marriage recognized. So a lot of people got married in the Church of Ireland even when they were Catholic. But over here, I don't think that
But you're
happened quite
talking
so much.
Uxbridge. you're
I'm
not
talking Uxbridge
Yeah.
for the
So it
marriage.
should be.
Yeah, but there was some, one of our family from the Utica area, there was something like they're been married by the Adventists or something like that. Like it was not what you would expect.
Oh, okay.
And
But Utica might have been one of those things where they waited for a traveling preacher.
Well, Utica had 3 churches,
Yeah.
or 2 or 3 churches.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
yeah.
In the 1860s? Yeah.
Pretty close. They were
Well,
loaded.
Uxbridge
Just
had
by
a lot.
memory, it seemed to me
Yeah.
it was, and I remember seeing some record, and I thought, wow, yeah, I did.
Yeah.
They have some traveling preacher come through, and
But a lot of them weren't allowed to marry, in theory. It wasn't legalized unless you were Anglican or Quaker or Roman Catholic or.
Yeah.
Sometimes they did anyway, and
Sometimes-
then went
and
to
then-
St. James to have
Yeah,
it
that's right, the
legitimized.
second one. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Good suggestions.
So I would also try the county marriage registers of Toronto.
Well, I mean, my very
and
first
the
thing is really
York.
to send an email up to the Uxbridge Anglican
Good
Church
church.
and see if they have a marriage records from that time period.
Oh, I brought the binders for the churches back. They're in the drawers. They're not in any order yet, but
You know,
So I can check
Uxbridge
out
is back in there.
I think most of the original church, Anglican church records, the original books, are now in Toronto.
in the Anglican diocesan
Okay.
diocesan
Yeah.
archives. There's trouble with that word. Okay.
But you can do some of that stuff on there. What they have.
Yeah. Online?
I think so.
I
Not
look-
the records itself, but the
Not the
an
records,
index
but
to
what they have.
an index to what they have.
They didn't have a decent catalog on
No?
the Anglican, Toronto Anglican Diocese website. They didn't. I did a survey of
Now
Of
the
them.
office is open again. I'm going to spend some time and look some of that stuff up here for those binders.
okay. Thank you.
Okay, I have a question. It's not really quite a brick wall, but there's been in the news lately about the Mount Pleasant cemeteries being taken back from the corporation. Have you seen that?
No.
Yes.
Okay, so they started out with the cemetery in Toronto, a big one, and now they have, I think that corporation has 11 cemeteries in around the GTA.
Yes.
And I guess the original cemetery was set up as a public trust, and they were supposed to have public meetings to choose the directors and things like that. And so for the last many years, they haven't been doing that, and they've been running it as a corporation rather than a public trust. And now, I guess they lost a court case, and it's being changed back into public land. And I don't know if that's going to make any difference to the access that people might have to records or anything like that. But
Wow.
I thought it's an interesting thing to know about. I have relatives buried in those cemeteries, so.
No, I think it's reverted back to the way I think the case went in
Yes.
favor of the old.
Yes.
So it won't be,
So they'll have a board of directors that they'll have their own,
They're supposed to be trustees instead of directors.
Yeah.
Trustees.
Yeah.
but it is going back to that.
But I do know that for some time there've been problems with ownership, issues with the people running the cemeteries, like them saying, well, you can't take pictures of the tombstones, they're copyright and stuff like that.
That's
and
right.
so I'm wondering, if that might, like, how are they gonna know?
Well, I noticed that Little Lake in Peterborough now has an interactive map that they're developing online, and they have the photos and the transcripts. So and right, they have the map shows you exactly where that
Which plot?
tombstone
It's
is.
right by plots, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Well, that's great.
There's a really good one out in BC that I've seen an example of where you can actually click on a plot number and you can see who's buried there.
Yeah, Notre Dame de Nage in Montreal has that too.
Yeah? Okay. So it's a coming thing, I believe.
Do you want to show your picture?
Oh, that one that a cousin of mine sent me a picture that had I guess a picture of a fellow from World War I was found, and you saw it on, I just stuck it up on the screen there for a while. She sent it just before we came to the meeting.
So it's a Clark person, right?
Clark, C-L-A-R-K-E, Clark with an E.
From the Port Hope area.
Yeah, and they found it, I guess it's not a member of their family, and they were just putting it up online, hoping that they can get that picture to somebody.
Back to the
Back to
original
the-
owners kind of thing, or family, original family.
So when the PowerPoint's done, we can just put that back up and people can look and see if they happen to know that yet.
I think it's an E.M. Clark, I think his name was.
Kind of
But
vague.
I didn't even have a chance to go and look up his military records.
Online,
That'd be the
yeah.
first thing I do.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it should give his closest relative.
Yeah. And it was World War I, so they're all up now.
They are?
Yeah.
Yeah, they are. All up. Okay. Let me get my PowerPoint back. Switch chairs.
Push escape and go down to the bottom, and you should be able to find it.
Okay.
If you find something wrong with one of your chairs that you're sitting into, let us know. I did have to glue a couple of them. I should have warned you at the start.
Like
So-
if you fall out of it.
Most of them were just loose handles, but if you find something, let me know on it so I can look after it.
Are you going to close that then?
I'm trying to.
Oh. Well, there's an X in the other
Exit.
corner.
Yeah, I clicked that 4 times.
Didn't work, eh?
What about this exit?
Actually, if you just go down to the bottom of the screen, you should be able to see your PowerPoint sitting
Here we go.
over on the... Keep going, there, that's it, that's your PowerPoint.
Okay, so
F5 will get it going.
slideshow from current slides.
Oh, okay. I didn't even see that. I was looking for it.
That was not the
That's
correct
really the current slide.
Well,
Okay. Go away.
Yeah.
Oh, gee.
Do I have 2 up here? I
Well,
didn't.
That's
Mine
why-
might be there.
No, they're both mine.
Oh, okay.
Well, they both should work.
Well, just do a bunch of clicks.
And that show. And go to this one. Okay, now we're... Doesn't like...
Do you do the brick wall topic every January or?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
because we don't want to have a speaker coming from a distance and have them not show up because of weather.
Okay.
Although the weather wasn't that bad.
The weather's beautiful today.
Snowing in May.
You just can't count on anything in this. And quite often it's closer to New Year's too. This happens to be a week away because it
Yeah.
fell on New Year's.
I'll start saving up.
Yeah.
Start thinking about it.
Well, you can always visit the office and bring it in, and we'll be glad to
Okay.
play with it and see what we can do for you.
Sometimes too, if we need a filler item too, if
Well, that's
somebody
true, too.
sitting-
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, one of the little short topics afterwards.
Okay, here we go. So, the DNA Special Interest Group meeting will be here next Tuesday, which is the 3rd Tuesday. It's today that was wrong.
So is it upstairs here or down?
right here,
It'll be upstairs.
right here, this table, right here. At 7 p.m. And I'll try and be here at 6:30, 1:45, something like that. I have been reading about a new third-party tool called Genetic Affairs that will go into your ancestry DNA results or family tree DNA results, and there's a third one, it might be 23andMe. Take all your in common with people and make clusters. I haven't done it yet. I'm going to show you the results in a week.
What was that called again?
Geneticaffairs.com. And I'm also going to test out the MedBetter DNA Chrome browser extension that works with Ancestry DNA and see what it does. Next meeting, the 5th of February, will be downstairs in the basement. It's Jennifer Waymark, who is the archivist at the Oshawa Museum. She's going to give us a virtual tour of the museum with an emphasis on records that she thinks that we genealogists would be interested in. And in March we have Bob Dawes from Quinty Branch, and he's got a new lecture called The Easy Do-Over, which is supposed to help us with all our piles.
Oh,
Piles.
Yes.
Scream for
Well, that didn't work too well, did it? It's resolution. Okay, so underneath that information is www.durham.ogs.on.ca, which is our website. Any questions can be sent to Durham at OGS. Facebook group, you can click on our Facebook, on our front page of our website to get to it. Ditto the blog. And on YouTube, you can see the recording of this meeting again in a week or 2 or 3.
I'll say a week.
Just search Durham Region Branch OGS and hit the subscribe button, and that will get you an email.
I'll mention that Dam Busters will finally be up soon. There are three cameras and
I'm waiting because I was away.
oh well, the 3 cameras and glitches in all of those cameras.
Speaker
Is,
kept running around the room. It was kind of tricky to hold it.
We should do him right there, and he's pinned.
That's right. Tie him to the chair.
Did you get it?
Okay, that's the end of this meeting.
do you just need to do